Question that has been asked. It's a long question, but the main point of the question is what is the ruling of pension? Is it permissible to invest in a pension or not? So there are two types. There are two types of pension. One is mandatory and one is voluntary. The mandatory scheme is where the deduction from the wage from your workplace is by force. It is not done according to your will. So the ruling of this type of pension is the money which, number one, that was deducted from your wages, and number two, the money which your workplace contributed, and number three, the profit which was earned after you invested in that money. All three are halal and permissible for you. It is halal for you and you can use it in your own use, even if that money was invested into a haram business. Because the money that was deducted from your wages, the urf, the norm, the practice and the tradition is that you should have been paid on time. If it is a weekly wage or a monthly wage, you should have been paid after a week, you should have been paid after a month. But because that payment has been deferred, it has been delayed, again, without your choice, when you receive all of that money back, it is as if you are receiving your wage at that time. And the addition from your workplace, what they have contributed, that is like a gift for you. You can say a gift for delaying the payment that you should have been paid originally and on time, weekly or monthly. And the profit which was made, again, that will again be classed as a part of the wage or a gift for not being paid on time. So that is the ruling of the first type, mandatory pension. And the second type is voluntary. And voluntary is where you yourself opt into the scheme and you enter this pension scheme by your own accord, by your own free will. So the ruling for this type of pension scheme depends on where the money was invested. If the money was invested into a halal business, into a Sharia compliant business, a business which included no haram, then again all three types, the money which was deducted, the money which your workplace contributed, and the profit earned, all three will be permissible for you. However, if the money was invested into a haram business, then the ruling will be that the profit earned will not be permissible for you, it will be haram, and rather you will have to donate that profit into sadaqah, into charity, give it to someone who is mustahiq of zakat. It will have to be given to them without the intention of reward. The money that was deducted from your wage, that is permissible for you to take because it is your wage. And the money which your workplace contributed, that will also be permissible for you to take, as we have mentioned, that is a gift from your workplace because they didn't pay you on time. So the only thing that you will have to donate into charity is the actual profit that was made from that pension scheme. Now, one may ask that what is the difference between the two? In the first, where in the mandatory scheme, even if the money was invested into haram, we said that it is permissible. And here we said if it is invested into haram, the profit is not acceptable. So the reason for the difference is that in a mandatory scheme, the money never enters your possession. The money never enters your possession. Whereas in the voluntary scheme, the money has entered into your constructive possession. And an example of this constructive possession that I'll give is, for example, you buy something off eBay and the seller said, collection only. So I'm not responsible for posting. Now, you were too busy, you sent your friend, you sent somebody else from your family, go pick the item up. And they picked the item up, and as they were bringing it to you, it got damaged, they broke it, something happened on the way. Who is going to be responsible for this item? Can you go back to the seller and ask him for some compensation? Can you ask him to refund you? Can you ask him to replace the item? You can't, because your friend, your relative, whoever took the item, when they took it, it was almost as if you took possession of the item. So once they take it, it comes into your constructive possession. Even though physically it's still not in your possession, but once you have ordered your friend, your family, your relative to take that item, it comes into your constructive possession. Hukmi, not hakikatan. Hukman. So here in pension scheme, the wage you should have been paid, but because you are voluntarily opting into that scheme and you are giving permission to your workplace that yes, you can invest this into a pension scheme, it has entered into your constructive possession. And you are basically appointing your workplace as your agent. So once they take possession, it is almost as if you have taken possession of your own wage. And therefore, when that money is invested into haram, it is as if it was invested into haram with your own free will, with your own accord. Whereas in mandatory, you had absolutely no choice. So that was the ruling of the pension scheme, both voluntary, mandatory, and I will emphasize this point in particular, that 99% of us at the moment that maybe have a scheme have invested into a haram company. And therefore the ruling of what I mentioned, that will apply, the second type. Because that money is being invested into a business that promotes alcohol, some sort of gambling company, some sort of insurance company. I think I've received 2 or 3 questions like this, and both brothers, they had invested, the money was being invested in a insurance company. I think one was Aviva and the second was a life insurance company. And it is not permissible to invest in such a business. So therefore the profit earned will be haram. So it is very important to remember that point. It is not, enough just to say that yes, investing in a pension is halal. It all varies and depends on whether it was invested into a halal or haram company. You should speak to your workplace and ask them to invest in a Sharia compliant business. And one final note that I will make as well is the final salary pension. Probably it's become very rare now, I think. But maybe for some of the oldies that are still working, who have worked with the company for a long time, the final salary, based on how many years you worked for a business and your final salary or your salary at some point, it is according to that. So if I am correct in my understanding, then the workplace is responsible for that. They contribute fully to that. You do not invest into that. So if I am correct in that understanding, then it will be halal for you to take that, because again, that is a gift from your company. So that money will also be permissible for you to take. If I am wrong in that understanding and the person and the employer contributes himself, then we will have to reassess that final part of the masla. So that was the ruling regarding pension schemes. Wallahu a'lamu bis-sawab.